Welcome to Gen.Struct.2 and Lat.Forces, Lesson 2 quiz, question number 1. And it says that the oldest long span structures were, and that's A, B, C, and D. I'll go ahead and try to explain each one. And let's take a look. A, arches, domes, and vaults. I'm going to say that's the answer. I know the Romans used a lot of arches, and before that, I know the Greeks kind of did vaults types of things. They also had some different burial mounds and stuff that had domes, and I think that's the right answer. But let's go ahead and look. One-way systems such as simple span trusses. A simple span truss. No, a truss was not the oldest long span structure. Generally built of wood. That could be true. I do not think it is. I mean, if you think of old structures, if they were built of wood, they would have been gone by now, so we wouldn't know about it. But I don't think that is correct. I mean, everything that you think of old is stone. And I know they have their first arch, if you could call it that. I forget where it is. It's somewhere Macedonia, maybe. Anyways, what they figured out that if you lay stones on top of each other and then you counterweight it right there, you counterweight it right there, you counterweight it right there, and so on, you know, that you could make a vault type of system where it would, and you could go on. I forget where this is. I think that it has something like a lion up here. There's two lions, like a lion. Roar. Yeah, obviously. And there's his tail. There's his head. There's another lion right here. Well, there's his arms. There's his legs, and there's his tail. And they're hugging or something up there. And it kind of looks like this. Anyways, that's like one of what they believe to be one of the first arches, or vaults, whatever you want to call it. And this won't fall over, because if you look at it and you see, okay, well, what will want to fall over? First of all, this block is the first block. This block will be on the ground, so it won't fall over. But this one wants to fall, but it is obviously you don't even need these if you set them all up to a certain height before it starts to fall over, and this is long enough. For instance, if this came to here, this came to here, and this stone was really long and it came all the way to here, you would get to a certain height where once you put them together, it wouldn't fall because of the counterweight type situation. But back in the day, they learned that they could set a block here or stone here and then put one up on top. If you do that, this one won't fall because you have this weight bearing down right here. Let's change colors. Let's go to yellow. It sticks out a little bit more. You have this weight bearing down right here, and therefore that won't fall. And the same thing with this stone right here, is the weight bearing down right here will not let it fall. And therefore you could just keep on getting higher and higher. And that's kind of the first arch that they found. Later you can see, actually have this as my screensaver right now, but it's a Roman arch, and it happens to be an aqueduct, which you may have seen them. It goes over this one in particular. I think it's in France somewhere. But it goes over a river. It looks similar to this, where you have like they went in, and so here's the river. The river, I'll make it blue. It comes right here, it comes right here, and it comes right here. Let's go back to, and then the arch comes up like to about right here. And then instead of making that all full stone or whatnot, they went ahead and made more arches. So you actually see them make an arch like this as well. And that reduces some of the weight. If you were just going to make it pure stone, obviously it would weigh a lot more, so that can reduce the weight. And then you'll see what they do. They may go like that. This is imperfect, of course. And then on top, you'll see that they made even smaller ones. And it looks like more like this, so it's more of like a it turns into something that looks kind of like a equally distributed load. If you look at it, there's a load right here, there's a load right here, but they're really relatively close together, so you could just look at it as a uniform distributed load if you wanted to simplify it. But then they would level that out, and they would really fine-tune this, and the Romans would take, let's say there's a lake up here in the Alps or something, they would take that and they would run this at just ever so slightly, like a 0.02 or whatever, a slope. I'm not going to quote, maybe a 1% slope. They'd run that all the way across the whole country, and they would feed water to Rome or to one of their bigger cities, and that, so water would run across. And there's a lot of these aqueducts. Just look up a Roman aqueduct and you'll see a lot of these, and they're pretty impressive structures. The Romans were one of my favorites as an engineer. They probably will tend to be a lot of engineers' favorite civilization, because they were just very, very impressive military engineers and engineers in general. Just the things they built were way beyond their time. And they actually had concrete, and concrete really wasn't reinvented. It was lost, and then it was reinvented like in the late 1800s or something. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, way above their time, and that's arch. That Romans were arch. That's why I went on that little tangent. Okay, let's move on. Generally built of wood. I said no. That, I would say long span structures, and that's what would kill that long span structure, because I don't believe any long span structures were built of wood. You could say that, oh, okay, well, the guys in the Andes, the Incas and the whatnot, I think you've seen them. Like, think of Indiana Jones. This is twice I've brought up Indiana Jones in these videos, but they have these rope bridges, and those are pretty neat as well. But the rope bridges are, they look like this, where you have strings, and those are long spans. So why couldn't they be that? I think what they're going for in this, and that's why I don't like these questions typically, but you'll have to just judge for yourself. I will put maybe. Could you say this is a wood bridge? Well, yeah, and it is a long span. These are wooden planks held together by string, which is probably made from some type of, you could say it's wood, I guess, but probably not. Anyways, I'm going to say maybe. I'm thinking the correct answer is still going to be A, and I'll go take a look back in the study guide to make sure that's what they agree with. And railroad bridges, it's just obviously not. Okay, now let's take a quick look to see what were the first ones. And it shouldn't be too hard to find. I think you should read through all this stuff. I hope you do that. It has a lot of information, just overarching, yeah, no pun intended on that, overarching. Anyways, I would go back to page 23, historical background. Let's see what it says. Long span roofs are not new. More than 2,000 years ago, the Romans were using arches and vaults to span long distances for large public buildings, bridges, and aqueducts. Okay, so I think that pretty much says A is the correct answer. And I'm sure if you go back, to the back, A will be your answer. All right, I will see you in question number 2.